Okay. All right, we're gonna try this again here, setting up the live right now. It looks like we're going live. Here we are. We're good.
There we go, new link. It's twerking. All right, I'll drop off the Zoom now, man. Sorry to bother you.
No bother. Here we are. We're good.
I'm dropping off the Zoom, Marcus. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Mark.
New link.
I'm gonna help him unmute himself so he's not muted. Still muted.
Everybody to you. My name's Chris. I mentioned on this as one of the bonus sons. And we'll be going through it like that, and then we'll have a slideshow and talk through that. Just before we get started further, I'd like to express a big thank you. A big thank you to Ryan, to Donna, and to Etienne, who's ill unfortunately at the moment, for all their preparations and getting all of this organized and being such an amazing support to Diana, Maya, and Haley. So yeah, let's just give it up for these guys because they've done tremendous work. Yeah, so thank you so much. Yeah, without further ado, I think, let's get started. We will start with Haley, one of David's daughters. So if you wouldn't mind coming up, David. Turn the mic up. Major League Soccer, yeah, I guess that's not really a thing.
Sports.
That's Max, so you should be able to hear us.
I don't speak
You want this in your hand or just on here?
in my hand.
Okay.
I don't speak very loud, so I hope everyone can hear me. Dad, as a little kid, you were the best dad in the world. Probably because you acted like a kid yourself, always goofing around and never serious. In my world, you were the funniest person alive. You already tried to get me involved in your cannabis world at a young age, getting me to help you sieve your hash. Not that I had any clue what I was doing, but I was just happy to be helping you, your little sieve slave. As I got older and grew stronger opinions of my own, things got more complicated. Fitting in as a teenager was hard enough for me without trying to explain to my friends why my dad was always on the couch smoking a bomb. Not exactly ordinary. And at that age, I really just wanted an ordinary dad so I could fit in. But you were never ordinary. You were always extraordinary. Having you as a dad wasn't always easy, but I always felt your unconditional love. Love for me, for Maya, and above all, love for Mom. The love you two shared is unheard of. And while I don't know Well, I don't know what you guys got up to in the 60s, and I don't want to know, Mom. The only way I've ever known you, you were completely committed to each other, inseparable. Mom's tolerance with you was mind-blowing. Whenever you'd say something that annoyed all the rest of us, she'd just laugh. She treated you like a king. And to you, she was your whole world. I truly believe you both were made for each other. My heart breaks for Mom, but at the same time, I'm relieved that you never had to live without her. I truly know for you there wasn't a world without Mom. You shaped so much of who I am. My love for travel and nature comes from all the trips you took me on as a young kid, exploring the world with curious minds. You also gifted me with scientific brain, which you secretly would have loved for me to apply to cannabis rather than other fields. My strongest dislikes were also shaped by you. I can't stand TVs always being on in the background, or action movies playing on full volume. I now try to avoid TVs, and if I do watch something, it can only be a movie where people aren't mean to each other. We do share a passion for food, but this is expressed in a very different way. If we were in a restaurant, you would order way too much food, eat a little bit, and then within 5 minutes, you would become impatient and want to leave, leaving all the uneaten food behind. Maya and I now compensate that by being the slowest eaters possible, and I make sure no food ever goes to waste. Your staple diet consisted of meat and Coca-Cola, which I now try to compensate for by eating as many carrots as I can. But I will never forget when Mom was in the hospital and you would cook for us. It would always be Dad's surprise. Dad's surprise was a combination of all the canned food we had together, thrown into a pan. But somehow, I still loved it. Always, noodles, beans, and cream sauce, basically. Yum. You were definitely a unique father. When I brought my husband Chris home for the first time to meet you, your first question to him was, "How much acid have you ever done?" Oh, no, wait. No, wait. Have you ever done any acid? So before Chris even got a chance to reply, as he was considering whether he should give a politically correct answer, my dad jumped in and said, "I've done more acid than anyone in the world." Yes, you were not a typical dad, and Chris quickly learned that PC doesn't exist around you. You also had your own vocabulary, where most people would say, "No, thank you." You'd say, "Not interested." Or if someone would make a delicious meal and ask you what you thought about it, you'd say, "Acceptable." Being polite was not important to you, and getting a proper compliment from you was really hard. On the outside, you could be tough, but you were actually incredibly sensitive. You loved us so, so much, and I'm sorry if I didn't always show you. But I really love you, and I'm proud that you are my dad. In the last few years, as your health declined, you had one solid piece of advice: never grow old. I take this advice to heart, and I try to live my life in the most adventurous way possible. You always loved hearing about my adventures and my travels. And when we moved to South Africa, you were so interested in our life in nature and our love for wildlife. You always wanted to go on safari to see the big kitty cats. And this past year, I tried really hard to get you and Mom to come visit us. Because I know how much you wanted to see us there, and I'm really sad you never made it. But I promise I will get Mom over there soon. I'm so grateful I called you the day before you passed. You were asleep, so we didn't say much, but I got to tell you that I love you. And the last thing you said to me was, "Good night, sweetie pie." Over the past days, I've learned so much about you, hearing stories from your friends in the cannabis world. It makes me really proud of what you have contributed. But to me, someone without any interest in cannabis, you were just my dad. I love you, Dad.
Thank you, Haley. Clearly very heartfelt. I'm now just going to look into that direction to see who's going to speak next. Yeah. It's going to be Maya. Maya, David's other daughter. Sorry about that. By the way, as you hear people speak to David, David's right here on the table.
Yep.
There you go. All yours.
Thank you. So I didn't want to go after my sister because I said she was going to make me cry. But I said, all right, you can go first. I was born first, you can go first. Actually, I have another story that came up when Haley was saying the first time Chris came over to meet my dad. My ex, Paul, who I was with for 22 years, he's not here right now because he's with my daughter, our daughter Anancia. The first time he came over and met my dad said, "Oh, we're so glad to meet you because we thought she was gay." So I guess my dad was kind of a big deal. Well, to me, he was just my dad, but not your typical dad. That was obvious from a young age. As a child, I can vividly remember my dad, giddy with excitement, asking me days, possibly weeks before my birthday, if I wanted to go check out my presents. A seemingly innocent offer, but in reality, a moral dilemma for a 5-year-old. Of course I wanted to see my presents, but there was also that nagging voice whispering, "This feels wrong," but also kind of amazing. Inevitably, I'd cave, and just like that, I was a fraud, doomed to fake surprise weeks later under my mother's watchful eye. I kept falling for it because apparently I believed in second, third, and fourth chances for terrible ideas. Eventually, though, I learned the suspense was actually the gift. That in the long run, it felt better not to have to fool my mother. And perhaps more importantly, it saved me from a life of amateur theater in front of her. When I was 13, my parents bought me a CD player for my birthday. My dad helped me set it up, or probably my mom, she was more technically savvy. Anyway, my dad had also bought me a CD by the Two Live Crew. And to christen my new sound system, decided to blast Me So Horny at full volume. If you've ever heard the intro to that track, you already know where this is going. And if you haven't, well, let's just say few teenage bonding moments are more deeply uncomfortable than standing next to your father while a sexually explicit song blasts on your brand new CD player. My dad was incredibly smart, but as many have already pointed out, he had a very specific conversational filter. If it wasn't about cannabis, he simply wasn't interested. And since I was never interested in talking about cannabis, our deep philosophical debates were limited. Not that he didn't care about me, he just struggled to talk to adults about anything that didn't directly interest him. I think that's why he got along so well with cats and children. His brain was just wired that way. Or maybe, let's be real, he was just high. I mean, the man had to be high when he named his cats Jingles and Moochie Guy, aka Mr. Kitty. But boy, did he love those cats, and when he wasn't doting on them, he could spend hours building Lego or playing with his granddaughter Sienna, completely in his element. One interest we did share, and I inherited from him, is my exceptional taste in music, which, contrary to what some of you might assume, in his case was not just reggae. Though I may be one of the youngest people alive to have seen Bob Marley in concert, reggae, shockingly, never became my favorite genre. Instead, thanks to my dad, I grew up listening to artists like Grace Jones, Brian Ferry, and Depeche Mode. Yes, you heard me right, my dad had a soft spot for 80s synth pop. Another thing my dad and I definitely shared was a love of food. On trips to Spain, I remember detours to a Lebanese deli just to pick up baklava or pit stops for a particular shirt cocktail he had to have. If he really liked something, he would order two, one for himself, and maybe, if you were lucky, he'd offer you a single bite after demolishing most of the plate. His generosity had its limits. Supermarket trips in the US were full-blown outings. Cherry Garcia, vanilla Swiss almond ice cream, and grape nuts were sacred staples. He even had a system for ice cream consumption. First, you freeze the bowl, essential prep. Then you scoop in the ice cream, and finally you pour over the milk. I still eat my ice cream this way, and when I'm sick, I crave potato chips with cottage cheese and salsa. Guess who inspired that combination? Of course, we didn't always see eye to eye on what constituted delicious food. I could never fully accept his love for steamed artichokes drowned in a bizarre, homemade faux hollandaise, an unholy mix of melted butter, mayonnaise, and lemon juice. But my foodie side, that definitely came from him. Always hunting down the best meal while on holiday, returning to a restaurant just for that one perfect dish. To this day, my daughter and I carry on a family tradition, dim sum at Oriental City. I can still order most dishes by their Chinese names, and the waiters still recognize me, and still ask about my dad. Clearly, something about him left a lasting impression. And if he ever ate my cooking, and I dared to ask him what he thought, and he responded with a measured, "It's all right," that was the highest compliment I was ever going to get, which of course meant it was really good. Before I flew out, Sienna and I were sharing memories of my dad, and she shared this one with me. When she was little, my parents would pick her up every Friday. According to Sienna, every single time Opa picked her up from school, they'd head home and immediately get to work on their sacred tradition, making French toast. Opa would sit her on the counter like a tiny sous chef, and she got the all-important job of adding the cinnamon, which in classic kid fashion meant she poured in all the cinnamon. Sienna has always loved rituals, and this was one of their special ones. A memory she'll always carry with her, along with, I assume, an unusually high tolerance for cinnamon. The only time I saw my dad cry was when he thought my mom was going to die. The love for my mother was undeniable, and to be honest, she was probably the only person who could have put up with him for so long. Mom, I know it will be hard for you to live without him, but he would not have survived without you. My dad was known for his wit, his sarcasm, and his love of saying deeply inappropriate things. So in that spirit, I'll leave you with a dad joke he would have definitely appreciated. What do the cremation technicians say after a long day at work?
Man, I'm burned out.
I'm burned out.
Thank you, Maya. So like I said, the colorful life. Next up, Annie. Annie is a friend of 30 plus years, I think. And I think David was the first person you met in Amsterdam when you went to Rob or so? No?
Wait, I'll tell the story.
Okay, here we go. You can hear it firsthand.
Hi, I think there's a few people out there who remember me from the Amsterdam Cannabis Cups 30 years ago. Closer to my mouth. There we go. I used to organize the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam, and in the early days, and that happened because I went to UC Santa Cruz with Rob Clark, and at some point he invited me to come to the first public Cannabis Cup. I flew over, I'm telling you the story of the first time I met David. I flew overnight, a mutual friend picked me up at the airport, went back to his apartment. Within about 20 minutes, this guy showed up. Jimbo said, Joe Wally Watson. And I thought, okay, who's that? And this guy whipped out a sack, and it reminded me of all our great bud back in California in the 70s. And we sat there and we smoked till, I don't know, we'd go to the supermarket or something. I have heard people talk about David testing you when he first met you, seeing how much you could smoke. I've come to understand that what he was testing, I'm supposed to look at that camera. What he was really testing was your ability to keep up with him. Could you smoke as much as him? Were you gonna be any fun? Or were you just gonna get dizzy and go sit in the corner? I think that's really what he was inquiring about. Though we are of a generation who believed that if the person you were selling dope to wouldn't smoke with you, they were probably a cop. Anyhow, I ended up being friends with Diana and the girls, and also with David and the rest of what we lovingly call the cannabis boors. Sat around a lot of nights listening to a lot of science that I barely understood. I appreciate all the work you all have done, and I also learned about hashish. Anyhow, I had no idea who he was. And I figured it out eventually. And, I saw both sides of David. I saw him out in public being brutally honest, if you were full of shit, interested in anything anybody had to say until they were full of shit. He was prickly. He was an easy guy to dislike, especially if you were full of hot air. I spent a lot of time wondering what kind of candy he would be. I envision a hard shell, that clear candy that's harder than an M&M, and it probably has some little spikes on it, like those pictures of the viruses that you saw back in the COVID days. But the filling, I think, is some kind of astoundingly creamy chocolate ganache that probably has some hash in it. I was privileged enough to know Haley and Maya as very young women. I still remember Haley at 10 with a messy braid, climbing trees and riding bikes better than any of the boys and being so much smarter than them. And Maya well, both of you, I think, but I was around more when Maya was insisting that her father not smoke cannabis in front of her friends in his own home. His compliance with that was a big sign of how much he loved you. He was singularly brilliant, curious, generous, a loving and devoted husband and father. Rob's mother used to call him Jingles Sam David, and I would say that Jingles Sam David renders the words one of a kind infinitely inadequate. Rest in peace, David.
Thank you, Annie. How are we doing? Do we want to go see some pictures and slideshows, or do we want to add another speaker now? What do we think, guys?
I'll say something.
We've got a lineup, thank you very much.
Don't need one.
Sorry?
Former public high school teacher. Don't need one. You're staying after school. We're back. So I met David a while ago. I'm a friend of the family. He's most involved in Myers. Can you come and use the microphone?
Yeah, that's easier.
This is, as usual, more about me than anyone else. But it's amazing as you go through life. You never really know what you're in or who you're meeting until later you find out who that was. I was a big Grateful Dead head. I've met Bob Weir, Jerry not so much. So that was big in my life. I listened to a lot of that. I'm kind of surprised not a lot of you are Deadheads considering the... You know what they say when you run out of weed? Hey, this music sucks. Other than that. But the other guy I got to meet was probably more responsible for the other half of my life that was really important. And that would be the cannabis. I mean, imagine meeting Picasso or one of the Beatles, and they don't even tell you they're John Lennon or Pablo. You're just there. And yeah, sure enough, I was talking about the precursors to THC. I'm a geochemist, so I was really into this stuff. And I'm like, hey, you know, CBG or what is it? CBGB, that was a club in New York, it was CBV. And David corrected me, he goes, no, that is a precursor, and it's, you know, blah, blah, blah. I was kind of hoping he'd whip out the pencil and do a little diagram and stuff. He did not. But he definitely gave me some of his wares, and we talked a lot about certain things that are extinct now. And he said, no, they're gone forever. And it was just really fascinating to be, this guy, I can't say he didn't have any bravado about it, there's another word for it. I assume he was impressed with himself, but he wasn't like, hey, I did this, you need to bow down, you know. It's just like, no, this is what it was, and we did the thing with the stuff. And it was only later I found out this guy is like almost solely responsible for all the weed I've been smoking for 50 years. That's pretty intense. It's like someone coming up to me and going, dude, I invented alcohol. I invented the orgasm. I invented, you know, the cell phone. But he didn't take credit for it. It wasn't like, yeah, it was that kind of way, for sure. Yeah, I'm not interested if you weren't talking about that. I get that part. But I got to meet one of the unsung heroes of my life and hung out with him. I spent Christmas with him just recently. We had a good time. His appetite was good. He had a great life from what I could tell. And I was happy to have met him and hung out with him several times. And yeah, I got stoned with him once or twice, but there was no way I was hitting those dabs. So if there was, you know, the true acid test, how much can you take? I would have failed about halfway through. LSD, however, I'll bet I could have tripped with the man. I bet I could have done, well, it doesn't matter. I'm glad he did acid. Good for him. My heart goes to his family, who's going to miss his rather massive presence. But for me, I'm pretty psyched I got to hang out with him a couple of times. That's really cool. You know, you don't get that opportunity too much in life. So, rest you well. I will smoke fondly and think of you fondly, because if it weren't for you, I'd be smoking something different, and that is for sure. So you've changed more lives than you could possibly imagine, even looking in the wrong direction. But thank you, David. Bless you all.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to keep going, if that's all right with you. So I think the slideshow is going to be a bit disruptive for the Zoom call that's happening here as well. Dan, can I ask you to the stage? I think you guys met in 1982, you told me, yeah? And keep close to your mouth.
Hello, everybody. My real name is Dan Shook. I got to know Jingles, which I found out about 20 years later wasn't his name. And so I said, well, if it's not your name, what's your name? And he said, Sam Selgnage or Selgnage. I go, he goes, yeah, it's Jingles spelled backwards. And so I believed him, you know. And at some point, way later, I finally discovered that I guess his name's David Watson. And so it was an interesting evolution of names. And I guess if I had a name back then that I could attribute to cannabis, I could call it Early Girl Man. But that was my only contribution to his seed bank and his experiments was I wasn't responsible for creating it, but I did pass it on from my friends to him and Rob, and I guess it turned into something because I see it sometimes, you know, labels or whatever. But the first time I met James was at a Sonoma County Harvest Festival, and this was like the pioneering days, I would say, of cannabis clandestine cultivation, and it was an interesting time because literally like everybody, little old ladies, doctors, attorneys, bankers, they're all trying to grow weed. And I somehow found my way into the soil manufacturing business, and I started a company called Grab and Grow up in Santa Rosa. And Grab and Grow had a lot of interesting customers. And so I got to know a lot of interesting characters, and ultimately ended up at this harvest festival that was very, very secretive. They took you there from some parking lot, maybe in Sebastopol, in a blacked out van. You didn't know where you were going, and you would go to some mysterious house out in the hills, and there would be 20 samples of the best at that time. And I believe that the year I met Jingles and Rob Clark, they took home the trophy. And it kind of opened my eyes as to like how good cannabis could really be. Because we were growing Mexican and, you know, a lot of, not, I wouldn't say bad, but it certainly wasn't what cannabis is today. It's a whole new world today. But somehow, through that initial meeting, I got to know his family, and I moved to Kauai in 1990 to sort of run away from the trade and the scene and the craziness where people are going to jail and their properties are being confiscated, and helicopters are chasing you all over the hills. And I just realized that Kauai would be a more peaceful place to raise my family. So we moved to Kauai and we started a palm tree business, and that's what I do still today. But the interesting thing with Jingles is he's an extraordinary, intelligent person. He had the foresight to ship me a big gunny sack full of Coco de Mer seed, which is a really rare palm tree from the Seychelles Islands. And Diane, and I don't know if family was with you when you went to the Seychelles, but these seeds are anywhere from this big to this big, and they look just like a woman's butt. And the male flower of the Coco de Mer looks like a really large male appendage. And so you know, maybe that's the curious mind, or his monkey mind, that attracted him to this bizarre palm tree, which is, like I said, really rare. And so they bought the seeds, went through the whole process of getting the phytosanitary certificates, and like Diana was telling me today, like how they had to take them to the shipping company in a taxi, and they were so heavy the taxi got a flat tire. You know? So anyway, they did that not just once, but they did it twice for me. And it was a process getting them through customs and ag, and they finally showed up at our farm, and I finally tried to grow these things, and it's a really difficult tree to grow. It has a radical taproot that is the size of a baseball bat. And you can imagine trying to grow that in a nursery container, and finally, after realizing that you just can't put this thing in a simple little flat or a pot or a tub, I started stacking 15-gallon pots on top of each other with the bottoms cut out, and they were up here, and I would grow them. I would sprout them like that in the shade house under overhead irrigation, and I would keep an eye on it, and I would wiggle it, and I would see if, it's got a taproot, because you certainly don't want to break that taproot. It's instant death. And we managed to get, right now we have 4 of them established out of 20 seeds that we originally got. And we've had some die, and they're very difficult palm to grow. But David saw the future, knowing that this thing is an incredible genetic resource that you should have. He's brought them, he's shipped them to me, and we have what I would call a breeding, potential breeding stock, because they're male and female, yeah. So out of the 4 trees we have today, we'll probably get a breeding population. But he had the thought to ship me those, and they eventually came to Kauai, and I eventually paid him back, and it wasn't cheap, I'll tell you. The air freight on those things was hundreds of dollars. Actually thousands, like 10 times 200. So anyway, most people don't think about David like that he would be outside of his cannabis box. But he really was that way. If he saw something that he thought was important, man, he would do it. And he would put his money on the table to do it. And I was like taken aback back in the day, like, wow, I didn't ask him, I didn't beg him, I didn't send him the money up front. He just did it. And I have to thank him and Diana and the family for being that generous and forward thinking. It was amazing. But on the other side of the coin, living in Kauai is a very hard place to grow cannabis. It grows, but getting it onto the table and something you smoke is a difficult thing, because there's nature's revenge called mold, and it's damn near impossible to grow outdoors there and end up with a product that you want to use. So I went to Amsterdam and, okay, this is the guy that's got to have a mold-resistant strain. And I tried a skunk one and some various hybrids of that. And he says, oh, the haze is what you need. So I was like, okay, give me the haze, And he climbed up in a warehouse, in a greenhouse, and flower boxes to the ceiling, and he goes up there and he pulls down this big flower box, and he opens it up, and there's just a whole plant in this box. And he grabs a big branch of it, and we go back to his place and crushes it all up on a silk screen, and grinds it down, and gets his nice golden keef ready, and puts it in the bong. And he's like, here, And I take one hit, and I literally shooting stars out of my forehead and the back of my head, and that one hit thing where almost your brain explodes. And I was like, yeah, that's the stuff. So I took some seeds back with me, and legal, of course, legal. I think I stuck them in my pocket. But I started growing the haze, and I put it in 95-gallon pots so I could use my forklift to move it around the farm. So, somebody discovered it and thought it was over here. Well, now it's going to be over there. So kind of like a little bit of trickery to keep the local kids away from it. And I kept making chicken manure tea and putting 5 gallons on each plant every day. And these things just grew like Christmas trees, like monsters. The stalks are about 4 inches in diameter, and they were just beautiful. And I took off for a couple months on a trip. I thought, man, when I get back, I'm going to have some beautiful buds. And I got back, and they were flowering, but there was a white mold covering the whole trunk. Like, I don't know what that mold was. It wasn't like the flies you get in birds, but literally that mold attacked the trunk, and they ultimately just fell over and crashed. And that's pretty much the end of my cannabis growing days. I just said, you know what? I can go to California. They can hardly give it away over there, so I just come here, get what I need. I don't do any cannabis anymore, but I do have those Coco de Marys, and I really appreciate Diana and James for making the effort and bringing those to us. And it was really fun when they would come. The kids were, the girls were the same age as my kids, and it was just fun watching their interactions. And I thought, well, Maya, you want to learn how to do something? Here, get on the mower and mow. And she was excited to do it. And then at the end of the day, she's like, okay, how much am I going to get paid? I was like, oh, I was just trying to teach you something, man. Like, isn't that enough? So she was a little bit cold to me after that, I remember. But it was Haley who had the meltdown on the island in the circle driveway. And I forget, Haley, what happened that you had that meltdown? Do you even remember? Yeah, which one? Okay. Well, we remember the meltdown. That's a good family joke. But so then on other subjects, I tried to get Jingles to talk about deeper subjects like dreams and stuff and spirituality, and he just wouldn't really go there. He says, I never dream. I said, you never dream? He said, no, I never dream. I never dream. And I'm like, wow, man. I said, it's too bad because I have these dreams about these other realities where the buds don't have any leaf. They're just pure bract and stigmas, and they're just these fuzzy, beautiful things. The leaves, whatever it's producing, it's like somewhere down below. And then I have these other dreams where there's these community gardens where, like, everybody went to the garden to grow their herb, and I was like, is that like this future here, or is it another reality, or what? But he didn't want to hear any of this. That was out of his territory because he said he didn't dream. But I think wherever David is now, there's probably those buds, and he's having a good time. We really love him, and he's a character to get along with for sure. But I think extraordinary minds are not always the simplest persons. They're complicated, and he was so focused on cannabis that it didn't seem like he could see that far out of that box. And he dedicated himself like nobody I've ever seen. Well, maybe Rob Clark too, and maybe David Cote and the group, they were really, and they still are, super dedicated to cannabis science. And like somebody said, that's what we have today. They created that skunk was the evolution that just changed everything, I think. And, trying to track it back to where it came from and how it got actually, to where it's stable and it just amazes me. I was never a successful cannabis breeder. I was just living off everybody else's work, basically, and I'm appreciative of it because it takes a lot of focus to develop a strain that's consistent and reliable, not going to turn into a Hermie nightmare or whatever. Anyway, I didn't really say anything that I planned on saying, but I have a couple more things here probably. Huh? Oh, my time's up? Okay. Yeah, well, we love you too, and this is the last thing I want to say. I woke up this morning about singing a Bob Marley song, and I thought of Jingles, and I think this is what he would say: is don't worry, everything's going to be all right. There you go.
Thank you very much, Jack. All right, let's move along. Todd, would you like to come up? guys go back to early days Amsterdam or something?
We do.
Yeah.
Yes, I will keep it close to my mouth. 1 second. Hey everybody. It is not a pleasure to be here today. This is the last thing I'd ever want to be doing right now. I had the good fortune to say that David Watson was one of my best friends. I might not be able to do this so easily. It was easier to step foot on Woodstock stage and talk to 100,000 people than it is to talk to you all right now. So, my little story with David Watson starts in 1994. Thank you, Annie. I went to the High Times Cannabis Cup, and I had the good fortune of literally bumping into Robert Clark. I was holding a video camera, and I was trying to frame a scene, and backed into somebody and pushed him into a wall, and it was Rob. And I had just read Marijuana Botany twice, and I was blown away. Unfortunately, we became good friends, and at the same time, I was working with Jack Herer on his book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, which David thought was wrong on a lot of levels, and I heard about all of them. And for a while, when I first met David, I was kind of scared. He's kind of a badass. He's big, he's opinionated, and he was right most of the time. So he wasn't someone I wanted to argue with, I just wanted to listen to. And over the years, I had the good fortune of becoming best friends with Robert Clark, David's best friend. And I believe that because of my relationship with Rob, David ended up liking me. And when I first got to Amsterdam, I think it's true, David was a bit of a man of mystery. There was a lot of people saying that he was DEA or maybe CIA, which I thought was kind of cool. And I called my friend here at Berkeley, Dr. Todd McRae, because we were close friends. And what I found out was that he wasn't DEA, he wasn't CIA. He was a genius. He was literally a genius. He was tracking the evolution of Marinol through the regulatory process. He even bought shares in Roxanne Labs so he could read the insider trading information that they would give him, because he imagined that he would be able to make the generic equivalent of the Marinol called THC for the international market. And the more I got into David's story and Diana's story, going through the hippie trail, going to India, collecting genetics, starting Sacred Seeds, the more I adored him. He is the hero in the modern cannabis story, in my humble opinion. If it wasn't for David Watson and his work, the world would not know the International Hemp Association, where he was actually printing peer-reviewed articles about hemp and then sending them to colleges and universities to re-educate the educators because they were fucking clueless. He had hemp educational kits back in 1994 and 1995 that I would spread out on little tables to try to teach people. And he was that advanced. When I found his article, Sun, Soil, Seeds, and Soul, published way back in 1979, I had to read it like 10 times just to try to really comprehend what it is he was laying down, because he was that far ahead of so many of us when it came to understanding the importance of cannabis in the human existence. And it wasn't just about the drug cannabis, it was about industrial cannabis. Porter Farm was about medicine, the Industrial Hemp Association was about really saving the world from the ignorance of prohibition. And Diana, from the bottom of my heart, I love your husband so much. Thank you for letting him spend so much time with me. Spent probably most of the last 15 years on Skype with him, and I thank you. And when he wasn't on Skype with me, thank you for letting him come visit me and spending so much time with me. I fucking adored it. And the world lost, in my opinion, one of the greatest minds of cannabis. And we should all celebrate his life. And after learning the truth about David, his passion, his absolutely stellar relationship with you, Diana, will always be, to me, the epitome of a love story. The fact that you two together for almost 55 years is stunning to us all. And I love you for it. You've been an inspiration in my life since the day I met you. And you will always be. Sorry, everybody. you all very much for coming out today. David wouldn't give a shit. but he'd be grateful that you did. And for many years, David lived under the umbrella of lies being told about him, and it really cramped his ability to share his photos like you see on the tables today. And until my last breath, I will defend his honor, because he never deserved to be under any type of cloud. He should have been put up on a pedestal for all of the work that he did for us in cannabis. I would ask you all, if you ever hear people speaking badly of our friend, please have the courage to stand up for him. Please have his back. He deserves it. And I want to say thank you all for coming out. We all love David. We all love his cannabis. We all love what he's done. And I don't think the world would be as cool as it is now without him bringing the primary colors of cannabis to Europe, sharing haze and skunk and early girl and early pearl and Hindu Kush and Durban, Afghani one with the world. Never mind California orange. Where would we be without it, you know? And I think David's mark on this world will be one that over time is focused upon, is studied, and is told. His story should be revered by so many of us. And I love him. I love you, Diana. And thank you all for coming out. I'm going to be quiet now and not speak for too long. Thank you.
Wow, what an homage. Fantastically spoken, thank you. Valerie, are you here? I haven't actually met you. I've heard some amazing things about you. Yeah, you think? Close to your mouth.
Yeah, I will. I can't. So, it's remarkable to be in this room where so many people have the deepest respect and love for this incredible human being. Have really, the terms that you've heard, I'll share his genius and his kind of grumpy, wonderful aspect of his nature, and his irreverence, which is one of my favorite parts, but his genius. And I first came to know of him when Rob Clark came to our garden. It was more in a competitive nature, and Rob came to our garden, and we were, my ex-husband Mike Corral and myself were growing, and he came to get some information about his first thesis on the botany of marijuana, and it was then it was a thesis, and we met David, and again it was more of a competitive nature. But when I came to Holland and came to your home and was with you and Diana and your girls who were little, and I'm sure you don't remember me, but it was so. I didn't know I was being tested, smoking. I didn't realize that. Luckily, I had practice. Otherwise, I would not have been able to bridge perhaps that gap with him. But your home and the love and the welcoming nature was really touching to me. Being in cannabis world as a woman is not extraordinary, but it's there are fewer women involved in this movement. But you, Diana, are such an amazing woman and such a loving presence, and the softer part of the irreverent and outlaw nature of David. And he really was a true outlaw. We all called ourselves outlaws. And I want to address him having to live so long undercover, not being able to speak the truth, and stories being told about you that are not your stories. And recently, he loved to tell stories, that's definitely the truth, right? But more recently, being able to express it, and Dominic Corley is writing a collection some of the origin, some of the people in the origin of this movement. And I'm so glad that David's mission, his life story, his genius, his true genius, and his ability to capture kind of the essence of this plant that's brought all of us together, all of us in this room, changed the nature of California, of the United States, and of the world, really. David's work has impacted the world. And it's deeply moving to be able to share that space with him and to know that his story, the way he tells it, his words, which I don't know, is like 8 or 10 hours of storytelling, I think Dominic said, right? And I'm sure he could have gone on for another month. Just, you know, if you had been there visiting him in Amsterdam, it would have been a totally different experience. I don't want to go on too long and belabor this, but I just want to say that he took me with Rob to the lab and was so generous with his knowledge. Not, you know, he could be a know-it-all because he did. You know, he did know it. But it wasn't in that way that he imparted it. It was with kindness and with truly sharing information because he truly loved and loves this plant. You know, I imagined him, you know, I imagined him falling over into a hole and digging it to plant, and you know that would be the way that he would go and he would be buried. And so anyway, I'm grateful to be here and thank you. And you know, thanks for sharing this moment. It's truly a remarkable place to draw the equity that we all share in our knowledge and our love for something that he pioneered as well. So anyway, now the competition is the next step, getting out of this body. So maybe he'll kick the door open. So thanks. I hope so.
Thanks, Valerie. Let's see, I think we've got 2 more. Fred, would you like to go next? Trick is to keep it close to your mouth.
Thank you. I met David in 1998 at the International Cannabinoid Research Society meeting. He and Rob had just sold their genetic library to Jeffrey Guy. And he, as Todd McCormick said, he was an educator, and he educated me about the significance of CBD, and we tried to carry the message back to the doctors and the patients. We included many activists. And then he did the same thing with church. So we owe the CBD story to David in big part. And then I got an email from him about the importance of terpenes. This is back in 2006. And you got to remember, until about 2000, the New York Times and the straight press was calling THC the active ingredient in marijuana, the active ingredient. And there would be, and even Jeffrey Guy would talk about the minor CBD. He kind of elevated from the status of a minor cannabinoid, and these other cannabinoids that now people are so interested in, THCV and the acid forms and all that. That all followed from David as an educator. So in 2006, he sent me this note about the importance of terpenes, and I put it in the paper. You know, Shaughnessy's that doctors would read, and the patients, activists would read. And then at the last minute, David wanted his name withheld, and he was very conflicted because as an OG, he wanted the anonymity, but as a creator, he wanted the recognition. So he went back and forth about whether his name should be in it. At one point, I told him, look, we could pull, it might be too late to pull it at the present. The compromise was name withheld. But this is what he wrote. To the Society of Cannabis Clinicians. More interesting to me are the modulating effects of the terpenoids. I better put on my glasses. Getting old. This is breaking the news of terpenoids to our community, an educator. Most interesting to me are the modulating effects of the 120 terpenoids found in cannabis. Pure THC is pretty boring, flat, one-dimensional, with little individuality. But add a small amount of terpenoids and the picture changes. Some terpenoids, like limonene, make the subjective high much faster in onset and much stronger, more cerebral, euphoric, psychedelic. Other terpenoids, like myrcene, make the THC physical, mellow, sleepy, as well as stronger. It has been obvious to me for more than 20 years that terpenoids play a major role in modulating the effects of THC. But now, for the first time, I have proof. I did the work with a volcano using liquid pads for putting the cannabinoid/terpenoids on and used cannabinoids that were 99% purity. I tried pure THC, THCV, CBD, CBN, CBG, and CBC will be next. I have 1 gram amounts of each. I've also tried a dozen pure terpenoids with and without cannabinoids. I used the musty drug reaction scale before and after dosing, as well as a better, more specific one designed by myself for all of the tastes, smells, and effects of the terpenoid-cannabinoid interactions. 10 subjects have been doing the testing with me. And then he goes on to report some of the different effects. But I just wanted to agree with Todd and everybody else who said that David had educated them. David educated our whole community. He was an educator in addition to everything else.
Thanks very much, Fred. Very interesting, actually. I learned a lot more about cannabis already. Ryan, up to you next. And I think you're the last speaker now, and then afterwards we'll put on some pictures.
Thank you. Wow, I can't believe we're here saying words about David's passing. It's hard to believe. I could stand up here and talk about cannabis and nerding out with David and breeding and silly genetic stuff, and that just seems so trite for what this man brought into my life, and I think into all of our lives. David was a discoverer. He was an explorer of an area of the world that nobody really knew about. And I think when people looked at cannabis and they looked at people that are involved in cannabis, they had a certain stereotype in mind of what we are and what we were. And David wore that as a cloak. David didn't graduate high school. A few months before he was to graduate, the headmaster came over and pulled his hair down over his ear and said, we have a dress code. You have to cut your hair if you want to graduate. And David's response was to leave. Rather than cut his hair. And he lived his life that way. He found a way to turn all the no's of the world into a yes. He was so perseverant, he was so determined and passionate about what he loved. He lived his life finding a way to do what he wanted to do. And I think that there's a real beauty and lesson in that. He kind of wore the stoner thing as a bit of a disguise, but the truth is he was an absolute genius. And we look at his family. His mom was a mathematician. His daughters studied, aerospace engineering. These are not your average, non-thinking people. These are really intelligent, curious people that make a difference in the world, and David made a real difference in the cannabis world. He discovered things. you know, he wore this hippie dog personality. You can see some of the photos in the back, some of the pictures of who he was, and they traveled the world and saw everything in the world. They, you know, there was pictures of the pyramids and, you know, Asia and India and Afghanistan. They went everywhere and saw everything. And he had this really beautiful look at the world. And he wasn't afraid of death. He didn't have ego wrapped up in it. Every day for David was really waking up. Can I learn something new? Can I have fun? And can I get into trouble? And it was just part of the beauty of who David was. And I'm really gonna miss it, because I really, you know, he was really an important person to me in my life. Much closer with David than I was with my own father. And losing him it's so immense and it's so hard. And I know we all feel a big hole in our heart, but when we lose people in life, the only real thing that you can take away from it is, how do we enjoy every day? How do we find happiness every day? How do we love the people in our lives every day, like David did with his family? I've never met a man that treated his wife with such respect and kindness and reverence. And the same goes with his family. He had this ultimate pride in you. And you were, as much as he was this hero, even a god-like figure in this cannabis world, you guys were his real pride. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for allowing him to be part of our world as well, because he really was just so much to us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. We've had a last-minute addition, family member coming up to speak, Felicia. Wouldn't want to, let you leave without hearing her speak, of course.
Hi. It's pretty much about the first time, or the highest I've ever been in my life. Yes. So Sunday I was on Hash Church, and I know I heard a few of you guys talking about his hash balls and how they fucked you up. This is my story. So it was the first time I went to, I just feel like emotional, so let me get it together. The first time that I went to Amsterdam, and you know, I was so excited. I'm like, I want to go to a coffee shop and order weed and whatever, you know. And so I was in the computer room, and my Uncle Jingles walks in, and he was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm looking at the coffee shops, like where they sell bud balls. And he's like, they're in the freezer. Of course they are, duh. So I go to get one of the balls to eat the whole thing, and he was like, no. He was like, that will, like, well, I say fuck you up. I doubt he said that, he didn't really cuss, but he was like, no. And so he took out the smallest little pinch of the little ball or whatever, and I was like, really, Uncle Jingles? I think I can handle more than that. He said, trust me, you'll be fine. So my mom was with me, and I said, do you want to do it with me? And she was like, sure. So my mom and I, he gave us a little pinch, and I had the bright idea to walk to a park. And I was like, you know, I remember this park, it wasn't that far, let's just walk. So my mom and I walked, and we had eaten this tiny little pinch, and I'm like, I'm never gonna feel anything. You know, it was like, whatever. So we're walking, and we're getting to the entrance of the park, and my mom goes, oh shit, I feel buzzed. and I had too. And so we walk in this park, and randomly, this happened. There was a trapeze show or some fucking shit, a circus in Amsterdam. I was so high off my ass that I was like, I need to sit down. So we sat down and we just watched the show over and over, and it felt like hours, which it possibly could have been. And when I got up, I didn't know how to walk. And I was literally like, okay, Felicia, you gotta get this together. I had to go right foot, left foot, like talk myself into walking. Got lost in the park. It was, to me, the biggest park ever. And then my mom says, ooh, pretty flowers, take a picture of me in front of them. I didn't even know how to open my purse to get the camera out. I was like, what the fuck? I couldn't think. I was high off my ass. Somehow, We made it out of the park. We walked all the way to the house. How we found it, I don't even know. Because I don't even think we had a cell phone then. And we had to find our way. So I walk up the stairs, and Uncle Jingles was like standing there with the biggest smile on his face, and he was like, "How you feeling?" And I just was like, he was like so proud. It was like the proudest moment. And he was like smiling, like waiting for us, because I mean, we were gone for a very long time. I think they at one point got worried, like, holy shit, like what happened? And he was smiling, and he was like, "How you feeling?" I was like, "I am so fucking high." And I walked by and I went into fetal position in their bed, and I was like, holy shit. And then like an hour or two, he came in and he's like, "How are you feeling?" And I'm like, "How do I make it stop? I'm so fucking high." And to this day, I'm sure like this was the highest I've ever done or been. Thank God I didn't take the entire ball, because I heard some of you guys did. I would have been in space. Like, what the fuck? And it was the tiniest pin. So, and I'm sure he enjoyed giving it to you guys and being like, "Yeah, you're high off your ass." And I think him getting me to the highest I've ever been in my fucking life was like probably the joy, of me, whatever. But yeah, so I finally got off that high, and I've never done those again. And that was my moment. But yeah, so Uncle Jingles was the best. He was always like the cool stoner growing up, and then I didn't realize how cool he was until I started reading stories and hearing everybody writing about him. I was like, holy shit, he really was the shit, got a cannabis. But that was my high story. Fuck hash balls, I will never do those again. That was insane, but also amazing that they were his. And I got to do it in Amsterdam, and I got to see the look on his face of pure fucking joy as I was high off my ass. So yeah, anyways, cheers.
Thanks, Alicia. What was he said? Haley, he said, hash is, what was it? Weed is for women and slaves, hash is for men? What was it? Okay, well there you go. Slaves, horse, and dogs, okay.
Weed because he wanted to collect seeds from it. And the Afghan people just like looked at him like he was a piece of shit, and he said, "Hash is for men, weed is for women and slaves." So he repeated that often, but basically he was just trying to get some seeds. We see hash.
Cool. All right, that rounds it up, guys, about the speeches here now. A couple of requests. There is a guest book over there, so if you wouldn't mind jotting down some thoughts in there, that would be amazing. And then there's one other element, which is we have David's ashes here. Now, one of his hashes. Ah, very funny, nice fun. You're just rolling in those dad jokes here, aren't you? Yeah, so his ashes are here. One of his wishes was, he was so much into cannabis, obviously, that he really wants to be in cannabis. So his ashes will be distributed among people that would like it, for it to be mixed up with soil to grow plants on. So if you are interested, you can leave your name with Ryan, who spoke here just now, and then he'll sort it out. All right, guys, that was it for now. We will show some pictures that, as you heard, were not shown in the past, so there's some stuff in there that hasn't been seen before. We'll show that. I think there's more food and there's drinks, and that wraps it up here for the speeches. So, thank you. I'm doing the slideshow now, yeah. Ryan, I'm just going to hook up. You want to hook up the slideshow? Sure. I think the live thing's still going.
Oh, so
Yeah, we're still going.
On, no, but Diana has on her computer.
Oh,
Yeah?
it's on her computer?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you gonna put the slideshow on the computer, Ryan? All right, well, it's you and me, Johnny B.
I'm here, boys.
Yes, Colin as well. If you turn your camera on, you'll show up. I have non-cameras are now hidden on the channel when the video is off. So that's why mine's not being seen until now. I'm not sure if we're going to see the slideshow or what's happening. I'll text Ryan. We are live on YouTube as well as recording this. Beautiful conversations, beautiful words from a lot of familiar folks. Very nice. Just feel blessed that we got to be a part of that. Got to watch that. It was yeah, it was really nice. Nice to see Haley and Maya speak about their father.
It was really nice to be able to actually, I've never met them before, so being able to actually see them and be able to be a part of that was really touched my heart. Just being able to hear the words, because now I get to know like historic Kevin has always been the same. That made me smile because that's those words. It made me. I was like cracking up a few times. It was beautiful.
Well, there's David in the bag. I'm not sure if Ryan's going to point the computer so we get the slideshow, but if he does, that's great. And if not, we can probably take a break till around 6 o'clock when we'll start the new stream on the other channel there on the other show.
Okay.
But I'll wait to hear from Ryan first and see what he has to say. I think in the least, it would not be, the final. Yeah, let's do a dab. Exactly. Let's do a dab for the 6-star general. The only 6-star general.
100%.
Skunk Man Sam. I got the full melt bubble hash.
I
Going to
should
hit
go
the
get some.
full.
You know what? Should I go get some melt out of the freezer, man? I got
Dude,
rosin.
are you kidding me, bro? Look at this. Like I am
I'm
hitting
gonna go get some full melt. I'll be right back.
6-star, buddy.
Kidding me. I'm gonna get some 6-star. I'll be back.
Yeah,
Give
we
me
gotta
a
hit some
Right
6-star.
here. Put everybody in this box. This is
We gotta hit the 6-star.
the box of gold.
I'll pull out the best. Pull
But
out the best.
there's some Congolese still in here from that.
Well, that's pretty damn near the best. Pull that out.
I'm like, I think there might be some Congo in here.
Yep, I'm pulling out. Mine is Yeezy OG. 90 micron first pull. 6-star. Beautiful.
Here's
Mine's
some-
got the little vaporizer.
A little smile. Here's when you did the first static and you did it for me, and I saved that little bit on this card, and it's right there still.
You guys can unmute if they want. That's D'Angelo, Andrew.
There's the first.
Yes.
Man.
Should unmute and say hi to us. That's Steve's brother.
Oh, you know what? Look at that.
There's some other folks. I can't seem to get them to unmute it though. I can ask to unmute. Is it working for you, Colin, if you ask them to unmute? Because that's when it just shows right up on the screen. It's time to do a dab.
There you go. Here's the sift that you
Maybe you can write him a little note, Marcus. Would that come up?
No. Well, no, because he won't go into the chat. He's just seeing it as a computer. We could tell Ryan to unmute it. Be a lot of background noise, but yeah, dudes.
That's fun.
Wow.
I'm talking to my friend Marcus.
Yeah, you are.
Lucia's asking me, who are you talking to?
Well, there's also 370 people you're talking to that are in the YouTube.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's really feeling it today. Loss of a really beautiful, amazing person and friend and everything. It's really beautiful that people are joining us today.
Absolutely.
For this amazing human being that has touched all of our lives.
Agreed.
Well, there's the sift that you cleaned for me when we came back from Amsterdam.
Oh my goodness.
Let me tell you, my Gorilla Grip sometimes gets the best of me. I can't open half the jars in my freezer. I was like, next jar, next jar, pop. I was like, oh, I'll take this one.
That's funny, dude. Well, you know what the key is? I will say this about melt.
Yeah.
You want to keep it in powder, obviously.
Yeah.
This stuff that I have was my pocket grease, but everything else I have is in my little fridge right here. And it is all in perfect powder form.
There you go.
Look at this bad boy. Yee.
Get closer, man. Come on, look at that. Look at that crazy
Yeah, this stuff's ridiculous, bro. This
Oh.
stuff is like, I gave this to a guy in Skinny Atlas and he texts me, he's like, bro, there was nothing to clean up. I was like, that's the point. Isn't that cool?
That's the point. That's what you smoke on in honor of Sam.
That's the magic right there. That's what we chase.
Puffin Bowls in honor of Sam. So many people had such nice things to say about David, aka Sam, aka Jingles. I just
It really was cool.
yeah, it was nice to see. I wished I could be there. Nice to see you, Kelly.
You were.
Yeah, well, I just, I mean, I really would love to have been there in three-dimensional meat puppet representation, but I was happy to be here this way, even though I did have to go and pick up my daughter in the middle of it. And soon I have to go help her with auditions and I guess be the person that reads like scripts with her or whatever. It's something mom usually does that, so
that's cool
I'll
though.
just yeah, it should be good. I think we're gonna have a break. Like I think probably from 4 till 6 we'll be good to go. And then the session is from 6 to 10, and I'll go live again and we'll well, I mean we are live now, but I will go live a second time. I'm not gonna keep this live the entire time. Oh good, this is the slideshow. So maybe I'll put it on speaker and
Here, I'll mute myself.
yeah, there we go.
I'm gonna go on mute. Big love, everybody. It's good to see you all.
Need to pin the main screen, Mark.
I did pin this main screen. That's what it's best to just keep yourself muted, and that way we won't make sounds, and then we shouldn't become the screen on YouTube. I think that'll only happen if we keep talking. So I'm going to mute myself, and we'll just go silent, and hopefully that'll be the main screen.
Thank you, Mama, for the 9 months you carried me through. All those pain and suffering. No one knows the pressure you felt, just only you. It's my words, I'm not surrendering. Mama, I will never let you down. I'll never go away. I'll always be around you. You know why you do me such love like you found. I'm always gonna let you wear that crown. You the ropes of times. You maintain your conduct with your only end. While sheltering me from the storm. And when it's coming around, you know, it's always so oh my. I'm so glad I was born. Thank you, Mama, for the 9 months you carried me through. All those pain and suffering. No one knows the pressure you felt, just only you. If you are my love, yeah. Well, thank you, Mama, for the 9 months you carried me through. All those pain and suffering. No one knows the pressure you felt, just only you. It's my word. I'm gonna make you so proud. Such good son you have. You're the one who teaches me all the good from the bad. Even when the system keeps pressuring my dad, you've got high. Thanks be unto the Most High God. Thank you, Mama, for the 9 months you carried me through. All those pain and suffering. No one knows the pressure you bear, just only you. If you was my love, yeah. Thank you, Mama, for the 9 months you carried me through. All those pain and suffering. All my vision, aspiration, I owe it all to you. It's my words and my offering. I'm a big man now, that's how things go. Things are due to survive, only Jah knows. They're sleep protecting us while watching us grow. You've been out, even when it's on the down low. Work so hard to see us not just lose blisters on your fingers so they can't take us for food. I'm here for a purpose, I'm here to but start job. As before I will see us through. Thank you, Mama, for the 9 months you carried me through. All those pain and suffering. No one knows the pressure you bear, just only you. Thank you, Mama, for the 9 months you carried me through. All those pain and suffering. No one knows the pressure you bear, just only you. Oh. No, it's my turn to make life. I'm so mature, you know, I've got my kids and my wife, and I'm positive to sure I'm doing fine. Still, can do so much more. But prepare me for the future, my love, you deserve. Keep doing your thing. There's not knowing what deep inside your mama, you know where it was going. Trying to mother losers and the care for her time that she is showing. Somehow your stars keep glowing. Your mama for the 9 months you carried me through. All those my side, dangerous, dangerous. If you are Chuck, dangerous. dangerous. Much my size, dangerous, dangerous. You feet up the fall. Dangerous, like a stepping race. Watch hey, of me. Amen. Dangerous, dangerous. Baking sometimes I steal it. I give it to some of my brethren and my siblings who use it. King of the province of Babylon, they don't like it. But I think they let you up, they take it for a crime. It's the healing of the nation, getting heaven now. The healing of the nation. Why? Marijuana coming from. Every smile. Really. You are forsaken for a crime. Healing of the nation. Can people song only them can sing this one? I know it's getting higher. Higher. It's getting higher. It's a Cherokee to sun, only them can sing this world. The song for the whole space in separation. The Cherokee to sun, only them can sing this world. It's the song for the whole space in separation. All around, stop the oppression. Why you won't be terrorized so living in the fact they are human. One day we'll not take it anymore. Whoa. Hey, on your mother, never can be no, it's not time for you to get stronger. I don't want to. I take by your anger. So there are people with them can see this ball. It's a song for his face in separation. It's a kind of people song only them can sing this ball. It's a song for his face in tribulation. Give a little, even a little, just make it trickle. Know who you give to. I'm talking to you, Mr. Fortunate One. Hey, hey, hey. In a hurry, or you'll be sorry. Others burden, we must have to carry. About that night, hey, hey, hey. Hello, people, song with them can sing this one. It's a song for the whole space in separation. It's a ghetto people song, only them can sing this one. It's a song for the whole space in separation. Oh, it's the river here, the echo here, and the constant of your people there. No school in the woods, no playground like they should. Hey, 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 I'm out to keep it don't play. It don't know pieces of the free. Only Jack and never need the free. Why, yeah, yeah. The people come only them can sing this song. It's a song for the poor, space in separation. Let the people song, only them can sing this song. It's a song for the poor, space in separation. Get the people, let them reach the town. Now you get the help from the start. Be gone now. On the road, on the road, I hate the way my heart never leaves. I never have no fear about it. My head never fails. But if I never have no fear about it, even though the road is up. Nobody can hardly see. Jaja is my answer. I the road, body. Holding so body, so body. Holding so go so far, go so far. Cha cha, die. Fire, fire, yeah. Fire, fire. Down, cha cha, cha cha. Throw it so far. I wanna why you roll it so baggy. Cha cha, cha cha.
Without a care in the world, you know what I mean? No worry for me, head up. That's a dog. And if you know me, you know, say I know. Oh, put no trouble on my back. Oh, no. Oh, no worry about that. Judge rise me out of my bed and make for if I'm go watch my tread me alright, alright. Said that your son tried to wake me up this morning, and I can hear Mama Africa calling. Alright, oh, alright. I tell him alright, yeah. I got to give the most I praise. Promise to delete them one both I praise. Breathing the breath of life, so I pray to the last thing I pour watch over those like words. Yeah. Smile with the right intentions. Chat with you, son, man never hiding from. No negativity up in a high kingdom. Mama Africa, your child to come. Said that rights me out of my bed. I mean, for if I watch my bed, be alright. Alright. Said your son tried to wake me up this morning. I can hear Mama Africa calling. Alright, oh, alright. Tell him alright, yeah. What a sweet summer day, Mother Earth, you I am free from a day. Me throw some carrot and meat and eat a jelly. Then when I the river come, me feel big of day. I wash off the crosses off of me. Sweet like things we love the off of me. Never be ungrateful, no people go sleep and they never wake up. But just rise me out of my bed. I mean, for fun, wash my bed, being alright. Alright. Said my son, try to wake me up this morning. You can hear my Africa calling. Alright. Yeah. I feel I'm a fight, cause I feel anytime I see the sunlight, I climb up the hill. Now I'm not work, so I time for me chill. Some whole of meditation and trying to be still. Visions of Mama Africa upload by. Even though you're far, I feel you close by. The mysteries of life, I seek to know why. Feeling I'm moving. Me out of my bed, I mean, for one watch my bed, be alright, alright. That sun tried to wake me up this morning, and I can hear Mama Africa calling. Alright, oh, alright. I tell him alright, yeah, yeah. Cause to me, alright. Come to me, standing so. It's funny. Thanks and praise to God. Close your eyes this morning. Give thanks, man. Give thanks, yeah. Yeah. Nice taking thanks and praise to the most high. You know, for health and strength, life and wisdom and understanding. Amen. Dimly. He's out. The gentlemen or not, some claim indemnity from the original plot, as though their integrity could still be intact. But what is the likelihood of that when if you trace the source of each resource they've got? They're tapped into the veins of the masses. The system maintains, feeding on their youthfulness and draining from their brains. And then the weak ones are rejected, armed and turned toward the strife. They return with force and take away their life. But make no mistake, there is life in abundance for all to partake. So war is redundant and hate is futile. But too many could feel it. We all have to say, the essence of life in this physical plane. Nothing can restrain the love. You just have to claim the love. Yes, I remember the censorship of showing your roots, deception with no lie conditioning for the youth, straightening their follicles while twisting their minds, replacing old traditions with their programs for decline. But as I rebel, my naughty swells defiant of the taming, my natural advantage I'm proclaiming. These spirals map the course of life and represent the force of life. Connected to the source of life, so make no mistake. There is life in abundance for all to partake. So war is redundant and hate is futile. But too many could feel it. All are the same. Sense of life in this physical plane. Nothing can restrain the love. You just have to claim it. You just have to claim it. You just have to claim the love. From the days of Menelek and Makonnen, King and them Michael heights up in the tabernacle then. So we tackle them, slew them in the battle then, because them up will lock up and a herd will lock a cattle then. But no me now, hesitate for draw. Whether it be the weapon or the herb in my jaw, the earth in my paw, from the first vision I saw, incision of the cord that they tie me to my mom. We're learning what we want, understand the boy, them can't violate the covenant, it carry universal law. So who we curse with job, bless we left them in a awe. Work without a flaw from inner Addis Ababa. Show me now go harbor. And that's a lava. Make up your mind which side of the can stand up on the border. So which one you rather? Riches now or after? One life you live, you're sure of that? Watch it come back harder. What about the curse you want go left your son and daughter? Try scrape up the brata in a drought and dash with water. Don't make them heathen, they go stray you from the path. Cause even when you're dead, you can't go escape them, you're right. Justice is rare without material wealth when you delegate your faith to someone else. But fortunately, I claim it over my destiny. Power from knowledge of the key. The tree of life is rooted in me. So in the midst of trials, I am free. So make no mistake. Life in abundance for all to partake. The war is redundant and hate is futile. But too many good feelings, yeah. We all are the same. In this physical plane, so nothing can restrain the love. You just have to claim it. You just have to claim it. You just have to claim the love. Yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. So imagine if I could smoke my herb in a place without worrying about it. All I see, but I wonder, for the world is gonna be. La 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 la. No one knows. Again, it's love. Senti la voce del mio mondo, si fa bene, right down to our show. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for the love. I'm in my sleep in my daily breed. I work overtime 7 days a week. The struggle is the real who I hope is for me. I feel respect who now about next. Thinking say, now it's true, tell you true. Then the kicks love create man, kicks 6 8 9. To drag the same old manipulation, but the image pull up in half of me, tell you that the system don't wanna be no victim. No, and it's love. Love you now, and you know what I'm under the camera and right down to ash down. Yeah, yeah. It's slow. I'm a millionaire, I gone with so much love, and I can't walk really with my child. They want a little slip of them attached like sun, and I said them want the free from a out from it on. Creating time, couple with the pampers amongst mankind. Where in my eyes, don't cross the line. I've been in church and keep me sleeping time. Say, pull up. Yeah, this is no one, no victim. Thank you, it's thousand, so thank you, I'm sure. Send me a channel, I'm touching my man, and I don't do a show. Yeah, yeah. And then it's slow. Just a little rock with a bunch now. You could say I stick of knowledge I leak. It's too long the same mistakes I repeat. All time the country rise to its feet. Nobody's reveal for any blindness to occur globally. I said even if a collie ain't your cup of tea, you gotta acknowledge what's real. Everyone never heard anybody. It's not the propaganda, daddy. Alcohol not just but illegal because it provide them so much capital. But I remain critical and brutal. At least see at the highest official. You could have a full argument and never back down from another style. So why don't you try? Don't fall it. I ain't a criminal. I'm on the trouble. Nobody. My urban listening and smoking ain't my hobby. You drink coffee, I and I smoke Cali. That you have one fit any use, you would advocate, not red bounds abuse, healing of the nation, that is the truth. Genesis 1:29 is my proof. So give me the good.
Think about him. But this battle with me. Because we have to get our sheep. Was it what it will? We have to reach and top the hill. Don't be there, standing still. It's not the time to chill. And if we don't reach there, it means we're lacking something still. So you see, evil each up in a corner. We can ban penetration all day long. Evil was also appointed them own delegation, causing so much confusion over all nation. Soldiers of Jahani, won't you come and join me? Come and fight this battle with me. To set our captive free.
every day. They try things to do that. They try to make us the sun. Soldiers of Jah, you come and join me. But fight this battle with me. Let us set the captive free. So you see the corner penetration. Even those who are appointed by them own delegation. So you see, soldier, tell me, are you ready? There's a distance climb from those who really need me. Every day, all they try is to keep us down. All these, they try to make us the clown. Yeah, soldiers of Jah, tell me, are you ready? Soldiers of Jah, you have to be so sturdy. Soldiers of Jah, come and join me. Freedom, liberation, set the captives free. Fighting soldier, are you ready? Join me. Fighting soldier, soldiers of Jah, you come and join me. But fight this battle with me. To set the captive free. Freedom, liberation, set the captive free. Come on, misery, set the captive. Fighting soldier, from Jah, me are you ready? Fighting soldier, fighting soldier, soldier, me are you ready? Set the captive.
From a fighting in a subtle different along, yeah. Won't you start uniting? I know tell a bear because I know strife. If no soothsayers with their carnal mind, no one longer as a day. From a fighting in a battle which along, yeah. Children start uniting. No evil eye against your brother and your sister. Don't even try to cope with your neighbor. Don't tell no lie to the young generation. Don't make them cry, oh yeah, cause it will bring revolution. We got to preach along. Talk from a fighting now. We got to preach along, yeah. The children start united now. Don't carry on, and I don't care you will bring come. Only out tries to live without a wisdom. You see their faces, but you don't see their heart. The things that they say and do show what in their heart. Got to live in your love, Lord. Children suffer from a mighty love. But in your love, yeah. Children suffer united love. No strife, no soothsayers, with their carnal mind. I know they have to stay behind. Papa from a fighting down. Got to keep along and children start uniting now. No evil eye against the brothers and the sisters. Don't even try to covet your neighbor. Don't tell no lie to the young generation. Don't make them cry on them, cause it will bring revolution. Got to live it alone. Papa from a fighting down. Got to live it alone. Children start to uniting now. Don't carry go underground to your ring. Only out. Try to live without a wisdom. You see their faces, but you don't see their heart. The things that they say and do shows what in their thought. Got to live in love. Papa from a fighting down. Got to live in love. Children start to unite now. From a fighting down.
Sama ganja planta, call me the ganja farmer. He ganja the earth, me good the ganja. Babylon come a light it attack, I am your chan. Sama ganja planta, call me the ganja farmer. He ganja the earth, me good the ganja. Babylon come. Big stinking helicopter flow through the air. With them calling them solid weed eater. Them never did it when me was out in water. Or when me did in flying fertilizer. Yet out of the sky them spitting fire. And I'm a little youth man with a hot temper. Me dig up me stinking rocket launcher. And in the air this was the helicopter me a chant. Some ganja planter. Call me the ganja farmer. People are here to me put the ganja. Babylon come a lot in attack. I am a chant. Yes, I'm a ganja planter. Call me the ganja farmer. People are here to me put the ganja. Babylon come. Yeah, you know, man. True Jaja bless I with love and good vibes, man. A true me of the yard, they set against in the land. Make doctors get no meditation. I saw them could have give it to them sick patient. Make chemists get no medication. I saw them could have brew new medication. Make singers get some inspiration. I saw them could have spread your message from the land ya chant. Yes, I'm a ganja planter. Call me the ganja farmer. He come to the earth and me put the ganja. Babylon come a light it attack. I am a tan. It's a me ganja planter. Call me the ganja farmer. He come to the earth and me put the ganja. Babylon come. I mean say ganja, 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 ganja. If you don't want to call it that, call it sensamania. If you don't want to call it that, call it marijuana. If you don't want to call it that, call it the indica. And from me bonnet in a chalice on a sheet of paper. Lord, some love me ganja, some ganja, manta. Wow. Oh, yes, this morning, she was love at first sight. Ooh, I met a girl this morning. She was beauty to my eyes. I asked her where she from. She tell me in the topics. She asked me what's my name. I tell her I am Tony. Now said, girl, tell me what's your name. And she tell me that her name is Jamaica. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Smile for me, Jamaica. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Oh, Lord, smile for me, Jamaica. Whenever you cry, here am I. Girl, I'm here for you, Jamaica. Dry your eyes, girl, smile. Smile for me, Jamaica. Lord. Hey, she have a rich history. A beautiful woman with the sweetest gifts. Beautiful sunrise and an evening kiss. Of a nice sunset on the evening season. But she tell me, say she tired. Tired of the exploits and the liars. She give them reggae, give them beaches, give them flowers and the ferns. All she got is abuse in return. But I say, don't you worry yourself, mama. Hey, Chronix is here to your help, mama. Ooh, I said, no worry yourself, mommy. One thing I beg you do for me. Say smile, girl, smile. Smile for me, Jamaica. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Hey, smile for me, Jamaica. Never you cry. Here am I. Girl, I'm here for you, Jamaica. What must I try? Oh, my. It's our say. Sweet, chronic, so give them. The one drop beat on everything, get them. How you give them back with a different stepping? How you give them both, nobody can run left them. Oh, but see ya. They must sit down, say you're out of ideas. You give them art and sweet literature. You're gonna make the world see the better picture. Then you worry yourself, mama. Planets is here to your head, mama. Yes, and no worry yourself, mommy. One thing we have beg to do. Nurse and smile, yeah, smile, smile. Smile for me, Jamaica, and now I say smile, yeah, smile. Wah, 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 wah. Smile for me, Jamaica, never you cry. You're a man. For me, Jamaica, and I say smile. Boy, you can get boy, boy. Skanking, drinking, pressure, yeah, skanking, grooving. Under the pressures of your life and it tough. No stay down, mama, time to get up. No matter with the down, full style, strictly up, full vibe. Not to get up when the bills, them, the rent and the mortgage due. Yeah. When me chalice, when your best friends are gone and it's only you. Yeah, like a prescription of the music, in sweet. Everybody wanna feel like you. Everybody wanna feel you. You know, feel like the music sweet, yeah. Sweet. Everybody wanna feel like free. You know, feel like the sweet, yeah. For every pain there's a melody, yeah. For every trouble there's a harmony that brings everything together. Some make us sing together. And who said life not hard? And every man got their struggle. I bet you just let me know. And let me know what you're see. Everybody wants to see. No feel like see the game. Everybody wants to feel like no feel like see. With your yeah, everybody wants to see that. Yeah, you know, feel like she. Those guys can't do. Yeah, can't. Sky can't feel like a groove. Yeah, skanking she. Everybody was skanking she. Body was skanking she. Everybody was skanking she. Yeah. I wanna be skanking. I'm gonna be skanking. I'm gonna be skanking. Oh. 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 Now, and now, they want them rebel music now. It's the rebel music now. Well, it's a rebel music, don't you confuse it. It's that crap that them got them producing. It's a rebel music, don't you confuse it. Me at the baddest lyrics, so much me prove it down. Me used to burn the weed a lot, now me start to read a lot. Out down the bounce on the system, want to keep us locked up in the prison mentally, them want to defeat us. In the streets, where my feet us, by the school, them never teach us. Nothing for we operate and teachers. Now them off it on we in a clappings and keepers. Officers, preachers, doctors and lawyers,
Rastafari, lift your hands for your name. Jah, Almighty, just a passing glance was on my head. I first love for my face. Just a passing glance was on my head. Oh yes, just a passing touch of freedom of head, moving in my soul, and it gives me the feeling that I'm gonna be free.
All right, well, that was incredible. Really quite something. That was yeah, it was a lot. I'm gonna go process it myself. I want to thank everyone that was a part of that. There's too many to name, but Ryan and Etienne and Donna and Kelly, so many more people that just helped out. Archive, Fletch, huge help. Everyone that I know that donated and helped to pay for that, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And yeah. Oh, I'm just seeing Wade's in the room here. We're gonna come back at 6 p.m. in a different link. And we're gonna be able to go live then. I just need about an hour to go help my daughter with some things. But I did want to thank everyone for watching. So, we'll see you guys in about an hour. The other link. So peace out, everybody.